If you had to win just one, which would you take?
AP.
Why is that, Coach?
Well, there's more of them to start with, and I don't know which has been going the longest. I think
AP's been going the longest.
I think you take it more seriously. Take me, for instance. I'm on UP. I don't pay a whole great deal of attention to it until the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. Charlie asked me who I want to vote for, and that's about the way to go.
Did you notice the vote from the sections? All areas of the country voted Alabama ahead, except the West, as you might expect in the AP poll. Did that? Was that good news to you?
Well, it doesn't matter to me anyway. As long as we got one of us won it, I'm just happy for the players. Me, heck, that's nothing. The players, they showed they had a lot of class, a lot of pride, and they worked awfully hard for it. And,
what is the? Can't you celebrate one day? What are you landing here in Montgomery at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Coach?
Well, I'm working what I'm supposed to be doing. I should have been doing it yesterday.
I thought maybe you could at least take one day off.
Well, I will one of these days.
Coach, one other question. Do you have any idea why 15 coaches of the 35 would vote for Southern Cal?
Well, they must have thought Southern Cal was the best team. And they beat us. They were the best team that day. I think...
Do you think that play, that questionable play when Southern Cal scored the winning touchdown may have had something to do with the vote?
I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea.
Well, glad to have you in town.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm real happy for the players.
You're here to sign a player
assistant
tonight,
coaches. That's what. I don't consider that any of your business.
You've been telling people that lately. Thank you.
Who knows it?
The first item presented at today's board meeting was the resignation of Deputy Prison Commissioner Wheeler Foshee. Foshee's status had been in question since the December board meeting when 2 members voted to fire Foshee. 3 other members didn't vote. Foshee and his brother, former State Senator Crum Foshee, are appealing convictions of mail fraud. Foshee's resignation becomes effective January 10th. Why did you decide to go ahead and tender your resignation?
Well, because I'm tired of controversy and need a little peace and quiet for a change.
Were you pressured by anyone?
Well, I've been under a lot of pressure for about 3 or 4 years now.
So you said you were not going to resign, you were going to stay on, and
I changed my mind.
just got to be too much of it.
Yeah, but controversy, I'm tired of it.
What do you plan to do now?
I don't have any plans right now. I plan to just try to secure some sort of work somewhere. I got to work, Everybody does.
Don't have any leads or anything in mind?
No, I do not at this particular point.
Do you expect now that things are square with the Board of Corrections, now with your resignation?
Insofar as I'm concerned, I hope so.
Any reactions from the board members about this?
No, no exciting reactions at all.
At this board meeting, members tried to come up with a comprehensive plan for complying with court-ordered prison reforms and for spending a $15 million prison bond issue. But they were unable to reach a decision, and on a split vote decided to turn the matter over to a committee headed by LEPA Director Bo Davis. In 10 days, this committee will submit to the board their supplementary plan on how prison money should be spent. Federal Judge Frank Johnson has given the board until January 18th to submit the plan. It was requested by the National Prison Project of the American Civil Liberties Union and the prisoners whose lawsuits led to Johnson's 1972 and 76 prison reform orders. The board says they want to comply with Johnson's orders. The problem is deciding what part of the money should be spent for upgrading existing prisons and what part should be spent for new facilities. Glenda Webb, WSFA TV News.
In September of this year, federal judge Frank Johnson Jr. ruled that Alabama State University had in fact been guilty of reverse discrimination in the hiring and employment practices of white faculty members and support personnel. He ordered them to stop it, and he also ordered some $208,000 in monetary compensation and back pay to those employees, and there were nearly 60 of them in the class action suit. Since that time, several of the plaintiffs have complained that they don't feel like the consent decree has been complied with. The university, represented by Solomon Say, however, contends that the complaints are exaggerations of the fact that not enough time has gone by. In testimony, the plaintiffs have attempted to show that acting chairperson Thomas Knight of the Urban and Social Sciences Department, along with that department's secretary, Mary Jarrett, have been treating the white faculty members with aggressive hostility and harassment. Several of the teachers took the stand and related what they said were incidents showing the discriminatory focus of harassment against them. The defense, however, says that the pictures are not being properly drawn.
Now, enough time has gone by to fully comply with everything. And you see, the other problem, if you recall the testimony thus far, a lot of the problems that have been complained about were happening around the middle of September. Now, keep in mind, this is 2 weeks after the entry of the court decree. It is right at the beginning of the opening of school. So that in addition to trying to get all the students in and get them registered, get course changes made, class schedules changed, and that type of thing, a lot of things that the university had intended to do had to get pushed back a little bit to a later time.
Several of the defendants in the contempt suit are seeking monetary compensation since the September 1st consent decree. As a second part of this suit, the plaintiffs are arguing that 38-year-old Dr. Robert Detchen was discriminated against when he was not hired for the school year 1978-79 after he had been working the previous year to improve the physical science department at the university. The case will be resumed tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
Dr. Doris Wilson calls herself a developmental optometrist. She says she doesn't just examine vision, she examines a child's total performance. She told the meeting of local businessmen that because vision problems increase as a child nears school age, parents should have their children's eyes examined at an early age.
If a youngster is having trouble reading in school, is it because this youngster cannot see 20/20? Not always. Many times youngsters have trouble reading in school because they cannot coordinate their eyes to follow a target. A youngster, whenever they're reading, will follow a target or the words across the line of print. If they cannot get both eyes to coordinate and to follow the target accurately and smoothly, then how are they going to be able to read? They're going to skip words, reverse words, get lost in the paragraph. Then their reading rate slows down significantly. The retention of the material that they have just read also decreases considerably, and their comprehension decreases. So ocular coordination, getting the muscles and the eyes to work together in a very highly refined system is very important and essential.
Dr. Wilson advocates a program to test children's vision before they enter school. She says that many times the problem is discovered too late to be easily corrected. And she says the problem becomes serious when you consider that roughly 80% of school children have developed some degree of vision difficulty by the time they reach the 6th grade. Glenda Webb, WSFA TV News.
Find your way to...
This file, lodged inconspicuously in a hallway in the governor's office, is filled with forms worth thousands of dollars. These drawers contain the rewards offered in many criminal cases in the state. Many of them date back to the 1920s. Most have gone uncollected.
Now, all of these rewards that we have are not that the people have not been convicted or arrested, or in whichever case. In most cases, either the people did not get the information, or the official law enforcement officials did not get the information due to someone turning in the information. They may be because of their own ability of looking out and seeking other leads, and they found these information that led to the arrest and conviction. So therefore, law enforcement officers are not entitled to this reward. Then you would have sort of a law enforcement being paid for what they're already supposed to be getting paid for anyway to do this duty. So therefore, this also does not show that some people don't ask for the reward. They may have information and not request for a reward, so therefore they do not turn in the request. So therefore we have these rewards sitting open.
Warren says most of the rewards are for information leading to the arrest and conviction of an individual, and he estimates the total amount of all the rewards in the file to be in excess of $100,000. That's money the state is willing to give away to any qualified informant. Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News.
John and Jenny Luter were arrested at a Montgomery motel on September 4th of last year when their 2-year-old daughter was found bound and gagged in the back of their automobile. Assistant District Attorney Ellen Brooks said the couple pleaded guilty to child abuse charges today and sought probation. It was denied by Judge Randall Thomas. Mrs. Luter, who was once a victim of child abuse, was sentenced to 5 years. Her husband, although passive, was found guilty of the charges because he failed to report the actions of his wife to authorities.
This was a very serious case. It was not an average, if there is such a thing, child abuse case. That is, this little girl, 2 years old, was tied, her hands behind her back, so tightly tied that they had to cut it off with a knife when they found her. She was gagged with a dishcloth in her mouth and then tied to a seatbelt holder so that she couldn't even stand up in the car. In other words, the offense itself was extremely serious. In addition to that, it had been recurring over a period of time. There were multiple bruises all over the body of various ages, meaning it wasn't a one-time thing. In addition, we found out that in Virginia, where the couple had lived before, that the child had been reported as being abused there. And unfortunately, the best we can determine, nothing was done in Virginia about the situation. The court, the state of Alabama, the district attorney, and the people will not tolerate letting an adult who is responsible for a child let someone else do this to a child.
Has similar cases like this come up before Judge Thomas before?
To a degree, yes. We've had other child abuse cases. Most of them aren't this severe. But recently a woman pled guilty to child abuse, and Judge Thomas, before sentencing her, sent her to a state mental institution to see if she could receive some treatment. And unfortunately, 6 days after he sent her, he received a call saying that there was nothing wrong. And upon further inquiry, he found out that she said that she hadn't done anything and that she had no problem. So we're faced with a situation of where to send these people to get treatment. But I don't want people to think that everybody should go to the penitentiary, even though that is our position in the district attorney's office of prosecuting where prosecution is necessary. There are ways of helping these people, and hopefully we'll develop better resources.
The Luter's daughter and another child are presently in the custody of relatives in Virginia. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
The attorney for the plaintiffs today rested his case in this suit. Howard Mandel called the last of his witnesses in his efforts to prove 3 things. First, that Alabama State University has not been complying with a consent decree order. And second, that the university has discriminated against Dr. Robert Detchen by not again hiring him for another term. And third, that the university's latest adopted pay scale in no way lends itself to ending reverse discrimination at the university. As his last witness, Mandel called to the stand the university's Vice President of Academic Affairs, Aaron Van Wright. On the stand, Van Wright conceded that the university's tally of white faculty members has in fact been declining even after the consent decree. However, under cross-examination, Van Wright testified that the university has been making strong efforts to hire whites in openings in several departments. The cross-examination of Physics Department head Dr. Susanta Goraya allowed the defense attorney Solomon Say to bring out the fact that Goraya was in no way ever told what race to choose from in the hiring of a physics professor, and also that Goraya was in no way ever led to believe that not hiring Detchen again was racially motivated. The defense had only an opportunity to call one witness before this suit was recessed until Monday morning, that witness being Dr. Thomas Knight. On the stand, Knight denied ever having been guilty of racial harassment even after the consent decree. He denied ever promoting the signature or circulation of a petition calling for the ouster of Joseph Luskin. He also denied ever having made derogatory remarks about Luskin in class, and he also denied that he ever turned down other employment so that he could stay at ASU just to give whites a hard time. It'll be Monday morning before the defense can call the second in its witnesses to continue the case. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
I felt unsure of myself at first, to pace myself just right so that I could run pretty fast and yet be sure that I could finish it. And I didn't know what would happen after 20 miles, but everything went smoothly.
It was not as bad as you had read it might be?
No, I never hit the wall like you do sometimes, but I was psyched up for it and I was ready for it. And after 20 miles, I was tired, and I really had to push to make myself go. But it was lots of fun.
Do you think you could have run faster? Do you think your pace was too slow, perhaps?
No, and that's why I feel so lucky. I feel like it was just right, because I was really tired at the end and glad it was over. But I did finish in fast enough time.
And it was a great surprise that you qualified for the Boston Marathon.
Oh, yes, it was a great surprise to me. I just wanted to do it for the experience, to be ready for the next marathon.
When is the next marathon?
I suppose I'll go to one next month, just as another preparation for the Boston.
Do you recommend running for anyone?
Yes, I do, especially for people who are non-athletic types, and if they're healthy and they have strong feet and legs, they can build them up and be stronger. And for people who have never really been very competitive or very athletic, you don't have to have quick reflexes or anything. You just do it, and you don't have to compete, and you can be in running at any level you want.
Did you have an athletic background?
No, never did any kind of athletics.
That's the beautiful thing about running, isn't it? Everybody can do it.
Everybody can do it, that's right.
Suffer the little children to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven. In that true spirit of Christianity, Father Bill James, as director of the city of St. Jude in Montgomery, is concerned with children, especially helpless children, many of whom are unwanted. Father James, when was St. Jude founded?
Loretta St. Jude was founded in 1934 by Father Harold Purcell. Father Purcell came here and found a number of people in those days who were unwanted, many of them feeling quite a bit of oppression, and he saw the need and began what was called by himself the City of St. Jude, and continues today, educationally and spiritually, and in a very special way with our children's hospital here, which we're very proud of, and we think typifies in a unique way suffering the little children to come unto us who take the place of the Lord in Montgomery and try to do his work here.
The children's ailments include cerebral palsy and the battered child syndrome. Some are hydrocephalic, microcephalic, or mongoloid. All need constant care. Sister Benedict has worked with these children at St. Jude's for the past 15 years and remembers when children like these were not always given understanding care.
It used to be that these exceptional children were pushed into the background, more or less, and when the public began to recognize them, people became educated to the fact that they are human beings with human needs, needing love and care as any other normal human. Give them a sense of belonging, try to understand their needs, and of course, you get the same thing in return. You give the blessing, and the blessing is returned.
What's a typical day like in the life of a child here?
I would imagine the first sensation that children would have would be to be cared for by our nurses, and they're washed, of course, and fed. They're given an opportunity to get out and play, and for these children, that's very important. In the cold weather, of course, they play on the floor, and some of our children go to school, the Children's Center. Well, most of our children are able to use the whirlpool now, and we have some marvelous people who run the whirlpool. It helps their muscle tone, and for those that we're trying to teach how to walk, it strengthens their muscles. And we met Calvin a little bit earlier. Calvin uses the whirlpool, and hopefully his legs and all of his muscles would become stronger because of it. And they will be able to do things they just couldn't do before.
What is Calvin's problem?
Calvin was, he was beaten pretty badly as a small baby, and he came to us crippled, And we were told that he probably would not walk until many years from now. A lot of people prayed for Calvin, and one of our sisters got us praying for him, and the doctors took a special interest in Calvin and operated on him. And Calvin is now, as you saw, on his little crutches and no more braces. And we hope in a very short time Calvin will be able to get around as most children his age do. Stephen is a very special kind of person, a very loving person. Stephen kisses everybody who comes in. But Stephen is being taught how to read, very elementary Braille, of course, to recognize letters as we recognize the letters of the alphabet. And it's a new world for him, and it's a good world because Stephen is a very special kind of person, and he's very happy about it. He goes to school every day, too, and we're very pleased about his progress.
Each child is looked upon as an individual with unique potentials to be fulfilled. John White works with the children on a one-to-one basis.
This board is a communication board that is the result of a series of discrimination training tasks. Darren has learned to discriminate not only these pictures, but also these words that you see here as to their meaning. And Darren can point to his room. Point to your room number, Darren. That a boy. Tell us you want to go outside. Outside. Reach up there. There you go. Okay. How about the television? That a boy. And now show us school. How do you go to school? All right. And the bed? Show us the bed. Okay. And of course the advantage to this is that the nonverbal child can then communicate with the people in his environment and let his needs be known to those that take care of him.
Explain what behavior modification is that you use.
Perhaps the best way to define behavior modification is the manipulation of the environment so that the occurrence of appropriate behavior is maximized. We do this by rewarding a behavior after it occurs if it's considered appropriate. Many other strategies have been used, such as punishment or timeout, but we feel that rewarding the child for appropriate behavior is the key to behavior modification. We apply this philosophy to three major areas here at Father Purcell. The first area is we call pre-self maintenance. This area concerns the movement of a limb, a child being able to sit up in a chair, and mostly pertains to those children who are bedridden the majority of the day. The second area is the self-help or self-maintenance skills. These skills include toileting, meaning potty training, teaching a child to feed himself, teaching a child to walk either independently or with the aid of a special walking device. Also in self-maintenance skills would be social control or social skills such as decreasing the occurrence of temper tantrums or teaching a child to be able to communicate in some way, either verbally or non-verbally. Many times with these children, nonverbal communication is the only way they can communicate, and we most often do this through a picture word vocabulary of some type. The third and last area are basic academic concepts, and we apply behavior modification to such skills as basic printing of the alphabet, again, the communication systems. Oftentimes we will utilize a Braille system for a blind child in the academic setting. So these are some basic areas that we deal with in behavior modification here at the center.
At present, the more than 50 children cared for at the center have their meals prepared at the main hospital and then transported to the center. The very special dietary needs of these children can often not be met, and the food often arrives cold. It is hoped that a new kitchen will be built to rectify this with the proceeds from this year's Rotary Ball.
How is the hospital supported?
We do get some government aid, as all institutions like this would get these days. But mainly we're supported by our donors. We beg around the country, and we beg here in Montgomery, and our friends come through and help us. And we have an appeal that keeps our works here at St. Jude going. Barely sometimes, but usually we do very well because people are good, and there are many people in the country and people here locally who are concerned about those who need help and who need assistance. And that's how we keep going. But we have people from all over the community who come and help us. There's a group of grandmothers who come and hold the children and take care of the children, and they call themselves grandmothers of the children, and it's a very vital part of their work. Many of the local people, as I mentioned, but we get people who help us, especially with their money, all over the country to keep our St. Jude Children's Hospital going.
Exceptional is the modern term used to define these afflicted children, and exceptional is the care they get, 24 hours a day. The patience and tenderness exhibited by everyone from the director to the janitorial staff is a reflection of the respect and love they have for their Savior, Jesus Christ. What you do to these, the least of my brethren, you do unto me. This is Loretta Bacon reporting for Alabama Illustrated.
A near $100 million budget for post-secondary educational operations was approved by the State Board of Education, funds for the operation of state junior, technical, and vocational colleges. In other activities of the board, discussion was given to board member Mrs. Isabel Thomason's resolution calling for teacher competency testing.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the State Superintendent of Education is hereby directed to develop and submit to this board for consideration within a reasonable time a plan designed to assess and validate these competencies among all certificated personnel in Alabama.
Alabama Education Association Representative Mary Jane Akel, however, accused Mrs. Thomason of being bitter about losing her seat on the board and taking a last swipe at the teachers.
I feel compelled to point out that in 8 years of service on this board, Mrs. Thomason never felt this great urgency for this competency resolution. And now here at the end of her service, she feels compelled to do this, and the board seems to think that it's such a grand idea at this particular time.
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Thomason only replied that she would not respond to what she called a vindictive personal attack. Her resolution received mixed reaction, with some saying that teacher certification would eliminate the problem, while others saw no problem with at least looking at a plan before vetoing it.
Dr. Gold?
No.
Ms. Thomason?
Yes.
Ms. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Not vote. Abstain.
Dr. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Drake?
Yes. Thank you.
After the resolution had passed, Mrs. Thomason was recognized as in attendance of her last board meeting.
Thank you. Enjoyed serving with all of you.
I'd like for the board to stand in appreciation of Ms. Thompson. Thank you.
Another announcement was made of the resignation of Alan Naylor as president of Gadsden State Community College.
Dr. Alan Naylor, president of Gadsden State Junior College, has submitted a letter to me expressing his intent to retire effective June 30, 1979. For health reasons substantiated by his position, he will go on sick leave as of February the 15th, 1979.
Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News. Federal Judge Frank Johnson, Jr. has ordered Alabama State University and its president, Dr. Levi Watkins in particular, to show immediate changes of attitude in the desegregation efforts at the university. Last year, both Watkins and the university had been ordered by Johnson to begin desegregation efforts and end the allegations and violations of reverse discrimination. Some of the plaintiffs in that original case later filed this contempt of court suit, alleging that Watkins had not been living up to Johnson's orders. Johnson ordered several immediate reliefs, including the removal of Thomas Knight as the chairman of the Urban Affairs Department at the university. Johnson had earlier ordered this step, and he says Watkins' failure to carry through thwarts desegregation. Johnson also ordered the immediate transfer of Knight's secretary, Mary Jarrett. Johnson called Miss Jarrett surly and rude, adding that her conduct toward some of the plaintiffs was an impediment to desegregation. Defense attorney Solomon Say says his only reaction to this latest order is that it provides a clearer understanding of just what Johnson had been wanting all along. Say, however, still holds to the view that the contempt of court suit was somewhat premature, and he says Judge Johnson's latest order reflects that thought.
After all, the consent order was entered on September 1. The general injunctive order was entered on May 1. The primary thrust of the May 1 injunctive order is to completely desegregate Alabama State University. And I think it's unrealistic to anticipate that that could be done within a period of just 2 or 3 months.
Even the attorney for the plaintiffs, Howard Mandel, says not enough time has passed for the full effects of the original order. As a supplementary issue, Johnson ruled in favor of the institution on 2 other issues in the same suit. One, that physics professor Robert Dutchin was not discriminated against when he was not offered another contract for the present school term, and also that the latest pay scale adopted by the university does not lend itself to furthering desegregation efforts. The latest orders by Judge Johnson leave little doubt as to the expediency he wants in the implementation of the desegregation efforts at Alabama State University. The orders, however, have greater ramifications than just the immediate ones. Norman Lumpkin takes a look at those.